Chosen one before the noise, before the confusion, before you questioned who you were. There was a knowing. It did not shout. It simply whispered, steady and sacred, that you were more than this moment. And you felt it, even before you could. Name it, even before the world tried to strip it away. You carried something different. A pulse, a rhythm, a silent gravity. Others didn't understand it, but you did. Or at least, a part of you did. The part that refused to disappear. The part that remained even when everything else left. You were never lost. You were only layered, beneath the pain, beneath the silence, beneath the names they gave you and the lies you almost believed, beneath the exhaustion that tried to convince you that maybe you weren't strong enough. There was always something deeper, a place inside untouched by shame, unshaken by failure, unmarked by rejection. It was never gone. It was only hidden, waiting, watching, whispering, "God, this moment is not your beginning. It is your remembering. They told you to fit in, to shrink, to follow, to speak only when spoken to dress like safety and move like fear. But your soul never agreed, even when you tried, even when you smiled through tears and played roles you were never meant to carry. Something in you knew, this isn't who I am. This isn't what I came here for." And still, you waited. Not because you were weak, but because you were wise. Because the crown you carry does not rush. It rises. Chosen one, you are not made to impress. You were made to illuminate. The weight you feel is not a burden. It is a signal. It is the pressure of purpose pressing against the shell of survival. It is the tension between who they told you to be and who you already are. And now that tension can no longer be ignored. It is cracking the walls you built to protect yourself. It is breaking the masks you wore to belong. It is burning the false identities you inherited just to be loved. Let them burn, because what remains after the fire is the truest part of you. There is a roar in your silence, a storm in your stillness. You do not need to announce your presence. You are the shift. You are not just carrying light. You are remembering that you are light, that you always have been, that you don't need to chase healing. You are the healing. You don't need to seek answers. You are the question that opens doors others forgot were there. And even when you feel small, when the weight becomes too heavy, remember this. Kings and queens are crowned not in comfort, but in chaos. Your wilderness was not punishment. It was preparation. Every delay, every betrayal, every night you sat with a heart too heavy to speak out loud was not the end. It was the echo of an ancient truth finding its way back into your bones. You have not been abandoned. You have been summoned, called not by voices outside, but by a deeper authority within. And now, that voice is no longer whispering. It is rising. It is remembering. It is reminding you there was never a moment you were not chosen. When the world tried to label you, silence you, define you by your wounds, the kingdom inside you remained untouched. Not a castle built with gold or stone, but a realm of truth, a sanctuary of clarity, a throne of stillness rooted in eternity. You didn't need anyone to see it. You needed only to stop hiding from it. That crown on your head may be invisible to the world, but heaven never stopped seeing it. And neither should you. You were crowned before you were born. That is why the world could not explain you. That is why shallow things never satisfied you. That is why certain rooms suffocated you. Not because you were too much, but because you were built for more. The dreams you carry are not fantasy. They are memory. The vision you hold is not illusion. It is blueprint. And that ache in your chest, that relentless tug pulling you forward even when you're tired, that is your kingdom reminding you that it cannot remain dormant. It must rise. So let the old version of you grieve. the one who tried to earn what was already within, the one who dimmed her light to make others comfortable, the one who waited for permission to be who she already was. Let her rest, because who you are becoming is not new. She is ancient. She is rooted. She is sovereign. She does not beg. She does not chase. She remembers. And with each step, she returns, not to the world's expectations, but to her original essence. You are not behind. You are right on time with the rhythm of eternity. You are not rebuilding. You are reclaiming. Every scar has become scripture. Every crack, a cathedral. What you once saw as weakness now reveals itself as sacred wisdom. The world may still try to define you by your past, but heaven sees the present you carry, and it cannot be shaken. You are not here to prove anything. You are here to embody everything, not because the world applauds it, but because your soul cannot do anything less. Have you ever wondered if God wasn't just watching you, but speaking directly to you? Not through thunder, not through crowds, but through quiet alignment like this moment right now. If this message stirred something deep in you, it's not just words, it's a mirror reminding you of what was never truly lost. And if you're ready to stop shrinking and start standing in who you really are, type, "I remember who I am," in the comments. Let it echo. And don't forget to subscribe, because this isn't just a video. It's your invitation to walk in what was always yours. And we're just getting started. Chosen one, you are not empty. You are sacred space. Let them misunderstand you. Let them question your silence. Let them assume you are weak. Because when the winds rise and the ground shakes, it is your stillness that will stand. You are built to hold frequency, not fear. To carry clarity, not chaos. You are the keeper of rhythm in a world addicted to noise. You are not just alive. You are alignment in motion. The authority you carry is not loud. It is law. You don't speak to be heard. You speak to echo. You don't move to be seen. You move to align. And when you enter a room, you do not follow its energy. You rewrite it. Because your presence does not imitate. It initiates. You are not performing identity. You are embodying essence. And that is why you cannot go back. You cannot shrink. You cannot forget. Because the remembering has already begun. They won't always understand it. They won't always support it. But that is not your assignment. Your assignment is to remain rooted in who you are, loyal to the frequency of truth, aligned with the current of heaven. There is no applause needed for what is already confirmed. There is no validation necessary for what is already written. There is no crown to chase, only one to carry, and you carry it well. You've walked through valleys that tried to erase you, and still you rose, not to reclaim a version of you the world liked, but to resurrect the truth of who you've always been. And now that you've remembered, now that the veil has lifted, you will never again unsee it. The crown, the kingdom, the call, they were never out there. They've always been in you, and they cannot be shaken. Chosen one, you have walked through places no map could name. You have endured storms that left no evidence but changed your entire architecture. And still you stood, not because it was easy, but because the fire you walked through was never meant to destroy you. It was sent to crown you. People saw the ashes and assumed it was over, but they didn't know what was being formed in silence. What was being shaped while the world slept on your pain. They saw the fall, not the force that refused to let you stay down. Because what lies inside you was never designed to be fragile. It was made to withstand what would break others. And it did that every time you felt forgotten. Heaven was watching. Every time you were passed over, purpose was preparing. Every moment You cried out and heard no answer. A deeper answer was echoing in your DNA. You were not abandoned. You were being aligned. The kingdom you carry cannot be inherited without refinement. It is not handed out to the comfortable. It is revealed through collapse, through closed doors, through quiet seasons that felt like punishment, but were actually preservation. And now, as you look back, you begin to see the pattern. The rejections were redirections. The silence was strategy. The isolation was initiation. You were not waiting. You were being restructured. Chosen one. Your path was never supposed to make sense to those who chose ease over evolution. They will not understand why you were called to walk alone, why relationships fell away, why comfort rejected you. It is because you were never designed to be caged by the ordinary. You were born to stretch the realm of what is possible. And that requires discomfort. That demands detachment from what no longer serves your growth. Even if it once felt like home. And yes, it hurt. The letting go, the unanswered questions, the version of you that had to die in order for the truth to rise. You grieved a life you thought would make you whole, only to discover that wholeness was never meant to be given to you by this world. It was already inside you, waiting to be remembered. Your pain was never wasted. It was the price of access. Every scar became a gate. Every heartbreak, a threshold. Every betrayal, a teacher. The fire that came for your destruction only revealed your design. You did not melt. You did not collapse. You became. You crystallized into clarity, into calling, into a kind of power that cannot be replicated because it was earned, not in applause, but in ashes. The crown you wear now is not decorative. It is divine memory. It is encoded with every moment you chose truth over temptation, vision over validation, and love over fear. It is built with sacred agreements you made when no one was watching. That is why it fits only you. That is why it cannot be taken, because you are not here to borrow power. You are here to embody it. And yes, there were times you doubted it. Times you looked around and saw others thriving while you were still being refined. You questioned your worth. You questioned your timing. You even questioned your sanity. But the truth is, you were simply ahead. And that is the most painful place to be. To see what others cannot. To feel what others ignore. To hold what others reject. You were marked by heaven long before the world knew your name. And the weight you carry is not punishment. It is prophecy. It is the echo of a mission too ancient to be explained, but too precise to be denied. And every time you tried to walk away from it, life reminded you. Through whispers, through wounds, through wonder, you were never allowed to forget. Because your spirit would not let you. You are not walking toward your kingdom. You are walking in it. Even now, as you question if you're enough, the answer rises inside you. Not in volume, but in vibration. The same voice that kept you breathing when hope ran dry. The same whisper that told you, this is not the end. That voice still speaks. That voice still anchors. And you know it. You've always known it, because you didn't come here to escape the storm. You came to become its stillness. When others panic, you carry peace. When others run, you remain. Not because you're immune to fear, but because you no longer obey it. Fear does not govern your movement. Truth does. And truth has never lied to you. It told you that the path would be lonely, that the road would be narrow, that your obedience would cost you things you thought you couldn't live without. But it also told you that what is waiting on the other side is not a reward, but a return. A return to what was always yours. Your authority. Chosen one, the throne, was never in the distance. It was always in your stance. Every time you stood when it would have been easier to shrink. Every time you spoke truth in rooms built on lies. Every time you chose to stay soft in a world addicted to hardness, that was the throne. That was the power. And now it is rising through you like breath. This is why you no longer tolerate what drains your spirit. Why you walk away without anger. Why you stay silent when chaos invites you to war. Not because you're passive, but because your presence already speaks. And what it speaks is undeniable, Dot. You are no longer explaining your light. You are embodying it, and those who cannot meet you there will fall away. Let them. They were never meant to sit at a table built for kings. You do not owe them proximity. You owe them integrity. And that means being loyal to your frequency, not their expectations. You are not meant to be relatable. You are meant to be radiant, Dot, and now the world begins to feel what it once ignored. The vibration of something eternal moving through human form. You, the storm survivor, the truth bearer, the light in the ruins, the one who stood, not because she was fearless, but because she remembered her name, even when no one else did, are not what you've lost. You are what you've become because of it, Dot, so rise. Not for applause, but for alignment. Not for power, but for presence. Not to prove anything, but to anchor everything. The fire did not kill you. It crowned you. And the throne you sit on now was not given. It was remembered, and it cannot be shaken. Chosen one. There are moments in your life no one will ever understand. Moments that rewrote you in silence. Nights that didn't end with answers, only aching. Days that smiled in public, but broke in private. They saw the smile. They never saw the rebuilding, but heaven did. And so did the kingdom within you. You are not just healing. You are being transformed. While others rushed for recognition, you are being refined in hidden fires. While they collected applause, you collected wisdom. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that stays, that shelters, that steadies. The kind of wisdom that does not come from victory, but from surrender. You didn't ask for it. You lived it. And that's what makes you different. You do not lead from ambition. You lead from alignment. That is why your steps hold weight, even when they are quiet. Why your presence shifts rooms, even when you say nothing. Because you are not just walking with knowledge. You are walking with knowing. And that knowing is not learned. It is remembered. It is divine. You are not a follower of light. You are a keeper of it. Chosen one. Do not be fooled by the noise around you. The world claps for chaos. It rewards spectacle. But the kingdom within you honors what is stable, sacred, and unseen. It is not interested in imitation. It is coded with originality. That is why you've never felt at home in shallow places. That is why you grew restless where others settled. That is why mediocrity felt like suffocation. You weren't being difficult. You were being called not to more fame, but to more truth. Not to a higher platform, but to a deeper presence. And that depth cannot be faked. It cannot be copied. It must be carried. And you, chosen one, have carried it well. Even in silence, you've spoken truth. Even in stillness, you've shifted seasons. Even in your waiting, you are working. Not with your hands, but with your energy. With your obedience. With your sacred yes to a life that made no sense, but made your soul breathe. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be remembered. And you will be. Not by the noise you made, but by the ground you held, by the light you refused to let die, by the peace you protected when everything screamed for panic. That is the kind of power you carry. Not domination, but demonstration. Not control, but clarity. You have become the blueprint others will study, and they won't even know it. They will shift when you enter. They will soften when you speak. They will awaken when you remain. Not because you forced it, but because your frequency whispered to theirs, what they had forgotten, and they'll feel it, not in their mind, but in their marrow. This is the kingdom you carry. A vibration, not a volume. A truth that doesn't tremble. A love that doesn't perform. A fire that doesn't destroy. This is why your presence is more powerful than your performance. Because you are not trying to impress. You are simply being, and your being is enough to make the ground remember its original design. There are people drinking from your endurance right now. People you don't even know, resting in the shade of your resilience, watching how you continue, without complaint, learning how to stand just by observing your stance. You are not just surviving for yourself. You are holding space for those who haven't yet remembered their own strength. And that, chosen one, is sacred. You were never here for popularity. You were planted for presence. You were never assigned to echo the world. You were sent to disturb its illusions, to gently shake what was never stable, to walk with a clarity so rare, it exposes confusion without confrontation. You don't have to shout to be powerful. You only need to show up, because when you do, the frequency changes. And not because you manipulated it, but because you aligned with what is already true. That truth lives in your eyes, in your silence, in your no that honors your soul, in your yes that reflects your assignment. You are not here to argue with the storm. You are here to still it, and you do, without trying, without warning. You have become the calm others look for in chaos, the answer they didn't know they were asking for, the clarity they were afraid to claim, and all because you chose to carry the weight no one saw. Chosen one, you are not just light. You are structure, the unseen framework holding up a realm. Others will someday enter, the quiet strength that keeps shaking off collapse, the invisible thread that keeps stitching together spaces that should have fallen apart. That is your legacy. That is your kingdom. Not a title, not a throne, but a tether to truth. And truth always finds a way, even when silenced, even when buried, even when ignored. Truth doesn't die. It waits. And you, chosen one, have become the vessel through which it breathes again, not through spectacle, but through sincerity, not through hype, but through holiness. Not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. There are people who will never tell you, but your presence saved them, not with answers, but with your being, not with performance, but with permission. The permission to rest, the permission to hope, the permission to believe that peace is still possible, that clarity is still available, that purpose still lives in places they thought were dead. That is the ripple of your walk, and it continues even when you feel invisible, even when you question if anyone notices, even when your own doubt rises like dust from old wounds. Still, the ripple goes on, because the kingdom you carry cannot be measured in likes, shares, or recognition. It is measured in legacy, in alignment, in remembrance. So stand steady, even when you feel shaky. Stay anchored, even when the winds return. You are not here to weather storms. You are here to remind them who they bow to. You are not just built for this. You are born for this. And everything you thought disqualified you was actually preparing you. Your silence was not weakness. It was strategy. Your invisibility was not failure. It was formation. Your stillness was not avoidance. It was authority. And now, even when you don't see the evidence, heaven is echoing with the sound of your alignment. And earth is feeling the shift, because the kingdom within you is speaking, and it will not be silenced. Chosen one, you have waited longer than most for clarity, for breakthrough, for the moment when everything makes sense. You have sat in rooms full of people and still felt the echo of distance. You have walked faithfully in seasons that gave no reward, and you wondered if you were forgotten. If the promise was just poetry, if your name had been misplaced in the hands of heaven, but you were never overlooked. You were being overprepared, not because you were weak, but because what you carry is weighty. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be manufactured. It must be grown slowly, in silence, beneath the surface. And that silence was not punishment. It was protection. It was in the pause that your roots deepened, in the delay that your discernment sharpened, in the solitude that your essence solidified. You weren't stuck. You were being steeped like ancient tea in still water. Your soul was absorbing every lesson, every loss, every unseen movement, not for performance, but for power, for a kind of presence that doesn't fade when applause fades, for a kind of wisdom that isn't learned, but lived. You were not waiting for something to happen. You were becoming the one it would happen through. Chosen one, the detour wasn't random. It was refinement. Every door that didn't open, every plan that fell apart, every person who couldn't stay, they weren't failures. They were filters, filtering your path to only include what was pure, what was precise, what was perfectly aligned with who you are becoming. You didn't lose your way. You lost what could not carry your truth, and that is not failure. That is formation. Formation of a foundation that can host what is eternal. Not surface success, but soul strength. Not temporary elevation, but timeless expansion. And now, with every step, you begin to feel it. Not loud, not instant, but certain. The shift is here, because you are ready now in ways you weren't before. Before, you needed approval. Now you walk in assurance. Before, you chased timing. Now you trust alignment. Before, you questioned your path. Now you honor your pace. And that shift changes everything. Not because the world changed, but because you did. In secret, in silence, in surrender. That's what made you sovereign. You didn't get here by accident. You got here by obedience, to the whisper, to the nudge, to the not yet that felt like heartbreak. And now, every second that felt wasted is revealing itself as wisdom, because nothing was lost. Every shadow shaped you, every pause prepared you, every low place hollowed out a higher purpose. The waiting was never empty. It was encoded with becoming. And now, when you enter rooms, you no longer ask for space. You bring it. You don't wonder if you belong. You remember that you were born for this. Not to take up space, but to transform it. Not to fill a seat, but to shift a frequency. And you do. Because what's in you cannot be denied. It doesn't need to shout. It only needs to stand. Chosen one, do you feel it? The way the air around you adjusts now. The way people pause, not knowing why. The way truth speaks through your silence. That's alignment. That's the afterglow of becoming. It doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with clarity. You no longer fit where you used to force yourself, because the version of you that once begged to be seen is gone. In her place stands a presence that no longer performs. A presence that walks with a quiet confidence, not because everything is perfect, but because her foundation no longer shakes. That is what the waiting built, and no one saw it. No one clapped, no one named it, but heaven knew. The moment your spirit refused to quit, the moment your prayers got quieter but deeper, the moment you stopped explaining and started embodying, that was the moment your kingdom became rooted. And now you move differently. You don't chase. You draw. You don't beg. You bless. You don't plead for access. You carry the gate. That's what happens when the waiting is complete. When the fire finishes its refining. When the quiet reveals its crown. You realize you were never behind. You were always being built. Chosen one, your delay was never denial. It was design, a divine strategy that placed you out of view until your presence could carry the magnitude of your mission. You were hidden, not because you were insignificant, but because you were sacred, and sacred things are not rushed. They are revealed in time, in layers, in precision. And now you are being revealed, not to impress, but to impact. The doors opening for you now are not random. They recognize your resonance. They feel the frequency of someone who paid the price in private. And when you walk through them, it's not because of popularity. It's because of preparation. Because you became the version of yourself that could steward the promised. And now you will not just rise. You will reign. Not over others, but over the patterns that once ruled you, over the voices that once confused you, over the delays that once discouraged you, over the lies that once defined you. This is not just breakthrough. This is alignment. And alignment is stronger than acceleration, because when it's aligned, it lasts. So move slowly. Move steadily. Move as one who knows the weight of what she carries. You are not here to rush the rise. You are here to root it, to deepen it, to let it speak through your choices, your silence, your rhythm. Let the world chase noise. You've mastered stillness, and stillness doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything is happening at the speed of truth, at the pace of eternity. It means your kingdom is not moved by demand, but by design. And that design cannot be shaken. Chosen one, you no longer walk as you once did. The world may still see the same body, but the ground beneath your feet remembers something different. It feels the shift. Not in your words, in your walk, not in what you try to explain, but in what you now carry without effort. You have become what you used to pray for, not in appearance, but in atmosphere. You walk into rooms, and the frequency changes. People pause without knowing why. Conversations bend. Walls soften. And it's not because you're louder. It's because you're aligned. You don't force presence anymore. You are presence. That's what happens when your inner kingdom matures, that it no longer begs to be believed. It simply becomes undeniable. Not because you performed, but because you endured. Because you let life carve you. Because you stayed soft in a world that applauded armor. Because you said yes when it made no sense. And now, even without trying, your life speaks. It speaks in silence. It speaks in stillness. It speaks in how you carry what should have crushed you. Chosen one, your strength is not in what you show. It's in what you no longer have to explain. The version of you that needed to prove herself has gone quiet, not because she failed, but because she fulfilled her assignment. She brought you here, to this moment, where your essence does the talking, where your peace answers the questions your mouth no longer needs to. You are no longer in hiding. You are in revealing. And what you're revealing is not arrogance. It is clarity. A clarity that was earned in the fire. A clarity that comes only from walking with truth longer than with fear. That is what gives you authority, not dominance, but depth. And that depth is now felt in places you've never even been. Your alignment has ripple effects. People are healing just by witnessing your rest. They are remembering who they are just by watching you not shrink anymore. And still, you stay humble. Not because you feel small, but because you understand the weight of your role. You are not here to impress. You are here to awaken. And awakening doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like walking away from what no longer honors your frequency. Sometimes it looks like setting a boundary with grace. Sometimes it looks like smiling without needing to be seen. And all the while, the kingdom within you keeps expanding. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need permission. It moves in silence. It grows in integrity. It breathes through your being. You have become the answer to questions you didn't even know people were asking. You've stopped chasing, not because you gave up, but because you realized you already are what you were looking for. You no longer look for external signs to confirm your identity. You trust the resonance within you. You don't rush to explain your decisions. You rest in your knowing. That is kingdom maturity. That is what unshakable presence feels like. It doesn't apologize for its depth. It doesn't dilute its vision. It doesn't adjust to stay comfortable. It expands because that's what truth does. It doesn't sit still. It creates motion. And now, you are no longer reacting to life. You are recalibrating it. That your choices have become blueprints. Your boundaries have become maps. Your voice, even in silence, has become a signal to those still asleep, a signal to those still searching, a signal to the forgotten ones. That royalty does not wear a crown made of gold. It walks in quiet confidence. It breathes in discernment. It moves in divine rhythm. Chosen one, you are no longer chasing impact. You are impact, because you've realized that your life doesn't need to be loud to be legendary. It needs to be aligned. It needs to be authentic. And now that you are, doors open differently. Not because of manipulation, but because of magnetic truth. You no longer fit into rooms built on noise. You walk into rooms and bring silence. The kind that heals. The kind that centers. This is what your kingdom looks like when it starts to manifest. Not through power moves, but through presence. Not through declarations, but through decisions. And your decisions now carry weight. Not because you seek control, but because you know your worth. You are. Deliberate with your time, with your energy, with your yes, with your no, not out of pride, but out of alignment. And the world adjusts to your alignment, not the other way around. You've stopped begging for spaces that once rejected you. You've stopped proving yourself to people who never had the capacity to see you. Because you finally understand. Not everyone can witness what was meant to be carried. And you, chosen one, were built to carry, not just light, not just truth, but the vibration of what has yet to be seen. And now, even when you're silent, your frequency speaks volumes. It says, I've walked through fire and didn't burn. I've carried weight that wasn't mine and still chose forgiveness. I've been hidden and didn't grow bitter. I've lost what I thought I needed and discovered I am whole anyway. I no longer seek to be understood. I seek to be aligned because alignment is my compass and truth is my throne. You have remembered now, not just your mission, but your movement. You don't move to keep up. You move to shift. You don't adapt to survive. You awaken to restore. Your presence is not a reaction. It is a revelation. And this revelation is no longer just yours. World has started to feel it, not because you shouted, but because you surrendered. Not because you fought harder, but because you listened deeper. And now that you've remembered, nothing can unshape you. The kingdom within you has been established, and it will not be shaken. Chosen one, this is the moment you stop searching for the crown, because you realize now was never something to wear. It was something to become, and you have, not through force, not through fame, but through fire, through quiet, through every no one else heard, through every yes that cost more than you could explain. You didn't just survive it. You let it shape you. And now your presence speaks what your voice no longer needs to say. You walk with the weight of remembrance, not of what you've lost, but of what was always yours. The kingdom is no longer something inside you. It is something moving as you. You are not just chosen. You are confirmation. Confirmation that silence was strategy. That delay was direction. That being overlooked was preparation. And now that the world has begun to feel your alignment, you no longer explain it. You embody it. You don't need permission to stand. You were born standing, even when life knocked you down. The foundation beneath you never moved. That is what you carry. Not a concept, not a metaphor, but a living vibration. A rhythm that cannot be faked. A strength that doesn't tremble. A clarity that doesn't seek applause. That is what makes you different. You don't chase what you carry. You reveal it. You don't adjust your light anymore. You let it shine where it's needed, because you've stopped mistaking rejection for failure. You know now what couldn't stay was never supposed to build with you. You are not behind. You are aligned. You are not unfinished. You are unfolding. And with every step you take now, truth walks with you. Chosen one you no longer wait for. The world to see it, because the atmosphere shifts when you arrive. Not out of arrogance, out of resonance. The frequency you carry is not loud, but it is undeniable. And what it calls in will not confuse you. It will confirm you. It will match what you've remembered, and you will no longer feel the need to defend your becoming. You've already walked through the proof, the cracks, the cost, and still you rose, not with noise, but with knowing. And that knowing is the crown. That knowing is the kingdom. That knowing is what the world cannot take, because it was never built by the world. It was born of eternity. You are no longer the one becoming. You are the one revealing. And what you reveal cannot be shaken.